I think that you could have lived your comfy life in the way you're living it, but you got out into this war. This is a war that we're in.
It's a war. That's so true.
That life will take shaky people and call them to do sturdy projects. You got to work your spot, and then life will put the spotlight on your spot. While you're feeling the sting of your setback, life is trying to prepare your comeback.
Wow.
So what excites you? What's on the other side of the challenge? Conviction, action.
You could go into the
It's
state.
over with. I'm in a zone. Sometimes you have to go left before you go right. That someday the doors will open and you go from left to right. Bam. It liberates people come from poverty. In Web3, we're equal. It's a community. That's a mind shift that can really change somebody's life.
Welcome to the Crypto Megan podcast. I'm your host, Megan Nilsson. I'm a high-end crypto and NFT portfolio and Web3 strategy consultant. I'm currently on a world tour as a Web3 keynote speaker at all the biggest Web3, tech, and fintech events around the world as an industry leader to educate anyone from beginner to C-level executive, and of course, to advocate for women in Web3. My mission is to inspire new people to get involved in the crypto and NFT space with quality, entertaining information they can trust as pioneers in this cultural and financial revolution, a paradigm shift.
Communication in Web3 is highly fragmented and frustrating. Users have to check various channels to stay up to date with their digital assets, sifting through thousands of spam and notifications. This is why we created Ethermail, the first Web3 email solution.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Crypto Megan, and today we have a very special episode for you guys. I'm so excited to share this with you. It's a friend of mine, also a mentor, Tim Storey, life coach to the stars, to the likes of Quincy Jones, Stevie Wonder. I mean, we are in the presence of somebody who's done absolutely incredible things, renowned author of Miracle Mentality. Tim, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for that grand introduction. And how awesome is it that we are in Hollywood, California?
I mean, we're here where all the magic happens. It's so crazy. I mean, you and I, we met in Marbella, halfway across the world, Marbella, Spain. Mm-hmm. And now we're sitting here having this conversation in Hollywood.
So that's so awesome. But I have to tell you this, that when I was in Marbella, I was there on vacation.
Right.
And then I was so connected to what you were saying about crypto and just finance that I went to your seminar at Nobu, and you were so amazing. I was going to take like just a couple little minutes of footage, but I just kept recording because your stuff was like fire, fire, fire. So I'm so proud of you and what you're doing and how it's working.
Thank you so much. I mean, that means so much coming from you. If I could be half the public speaker that you are one day, I mean, that would be the greatest honor of all. But, you know, when you speak about something that's a deep passion and you're really excited to propel that narrative and to teach people, I think that that shows no matter how good of a speaker that you are, but you have truly mastered that craft. And you're one of the few people in the world that can say things that really stick with people. And I think that one of the greatest talents, also as a psychologist or as a life coach, is to be able to synthesize information in a way that somebody can actually retain that and then use that in their daily life, and it sticks with them, you know?
Yes, but I think you're doing it in your own style. And so I think you're completely correct that when you're passionate about something and you have a revelation about it, it comes out in a way where it's sticky.
Right.
And so same thing with the subject that you're on.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to get started here, I mean, I want to tell people about your background, where you're coming from, who you are. It's just incredible to see that I've heard your life story. Mm-hmm. You know, you grew up in Compton.
Yes.
And you made it from Compton to Hollywood to working with the stars to Oprah's very own backyard.
Yes.
And it's just incredible. So tell us a little bit about your life and your upbringing and, you know, how you got to where you are now.
So really, you know, I was raised not too far from here. So Compton is not far from Hollywood, but it's just like a whole different space. So as you know, Dr. Dre's from there, Venus, Serena Williams, Kendrick Lamar. So we were lower income family, started off 7 people in a 2-bedroom apartment, which is, you got to really visualize it. That's super like cramped. But the thing that was interesting, Megan, is that even though we were like that, my mother and father were very disciplined. So the little apartment was always clean. We always felt like we were like clean and well-mannered. So it wasn't like we were like out of control. But even as a kid, I had a miracle mentality. I believed that there had to be more to life than what I was seeing. Right. And as I got older in life, my teachers played a big role. So my 6th grade teacher, a guy named Mr. Probert, he made me stay after class one day, and then he said, I want to tell you something. I didn't know what he was going to say. He says, I want to tell you that I think you're brilliant. And I had never heard anybody in my life say that about me.
Wow.
So it's amazing about tags and labels.
Right.
So I just like heard those words and just stuck them on me.
I mean, that's kind of incredible to be in 6th grade.
6th grade,
and your
yeah.
teacher pulls you aside and sees something in you that you might not even realize you have yourself.
Yeah.
Right? But you hear it and you want to try to embrace that feeling and go with it, right? So
yeah, because at that time I was kind of like a quiet creative who was super, super funny. And there was times like in the classroom that kids would act up, and I'd stop them from acting up by being funny towards them. And the teacher said to me, you're brilliant. And then he pointed out the different things he saw. He said, your reading ability, your speaking ability. He says, your leadership, Tim. He says, I want to help build you out. So could you imagine that, as you just said, a 6th grade teacher branding me brilliant? I just went with it. So we kind of worked our way out of a tough situation. And next thing you know in life, I kept going with school, got a doctorate in world religion and a master's in therapy. And then my life just took off.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that's absolutely, there seems to be a common theme that I've been seeing, and that this brilliance is coming out. You said Serena Williams, you named all these people who came from tough situations growing up, and they really grew to be someone incredible, And yesterday I just interviewed a well-known family, actually hip-hop royalty,
Truly.
the Snoop Dogg family. I mean, they're iconic in our generation. I mean, they just truly brought the art of music to people's lives and given them so much joy. And they grew up in Inglewood,
Yes.
right? I just interviewed yesterday his son, Cordell Broadus, and his father, Papa Snoop, which joined the show. And that was just incredible to see these generations of, multiple generations of serial entrepreneurs that have come out of these hardships.
Yes.
Is that some kind of a common theme here that we can look
It really is. And the common theme is hardship. So hardship for us, like with Snoop's family and my family, would be poverty. Usually a lot of addiction is in there. But someone could be in Barcelona, Spain right now, or Oslo, Norway, but maybe they've been through their own type of hardship. It could be maybe their parents got divorced or they had an illness. But we can really turn our pain into power.
Right,
And so that's
love that.
really the deal right there. It's really the pain into the power.
Right, and transform that into something really special.
100%.
So you're going through school and you realize you have this gift and this talent. At what point do you start, capitalizing that and saying like, man, this is really truly my calling. I'm going to go for this in a bigger way. When did you have that moment, or how did you figure that out?
So as you know, in life, some things you decide and some things you discover. My life is more about discovery rather than always making like the decision from my brain. So when I was in seminary, I created this program for inner city kids where I was motivating people in tough neighborhoods in Florida where I was in seminary. And so people started hearing about it and saying like, this guy can really speak. Because I never saw myself like, I'm going to be a big speaker someday. And so it was some NFL players that found out about me. And one of them said, I have money and you have a gift, and I'm going to just blow you out there. And I was like 20 years of age.
Wow.
And so I just discovered this gift to communicate. I created this curriculum of turning your setbacks to comebacks at 20 years of age. And then that became my life.
Right.
And then it moved into Hollywood, as you know, and I became known as the comeback coach to the stars. Yeah.
I mean, I can absolutely understand why. It's just incredible. And so he told you had a gift. What's interesting to me is that you said, I didn't envision myself on these big stages
No,
and,
not at
and
all.
talking to all these people. And a lot of people think that you have to have that vision from when you're young to be able to grow into something. But I love what you said about discovery, because that really resonates with my world, with Web3, with this new iteration of technology. You know, I never envisioned myself as somebody who would be talking about buying land in the metaverse, you know, in an alternate reality that some people, refer it to. But, it's discovery. That's what life is all about, and being able to adapt and pivot and grow.
And let's stay there just for a second, because I think that like a little child is first crawling, they are not even envisioning walking. They just cannot believe they can crawl. So that's why you have to really proof your home so the kid doesn't crawl down the stairs, because that kid cannot believe it can crawl. So when it then finds out it can stand, then it starts thinking, ooh, I could do this walk thing.
Right.
So this is what happens in life. And for me, as your friend, it's been so awesome to watch how you've gone from the crawling to the walking, okay, to the running, to the soaring.
I love that.
Yeah, because there is a soar that comes, but let's crawl first. Let's stand. Let's walk.
Right.
Let's run.
So it's
let's
like
soar.
one day at a time, one moment at a time.
No doubt about it. No
what
doubt
I love
about
about you, Tim, is that you're so present. You're just so able to be in the moment. That must be part of your gift.
Yeah,
I
am so here. So when I'm with somebody, and you've been with me socially, I literally turn off my phone every time, because somebody prepared to be with me, someone had to leave their home, so their time is so valuable.
Right.
And so I really look at each person and each situation as such a gift. So I'm very present.
No, it is truly a gift. And so you went from then this NFL, the NFL stars. You started coaching people in the NFL or being
Big
their
ones,
mentor, which is incredible. And so then at what point did you, make it to Hollywood and start coaching the stars? And who have you come across?
Yeah, so the Hollywood thing happened in a really cool way. So in my later 20s, I started meeting different people that would come and see me speak. So I was speaking in the Hollywood area, usually on motivation and using some biblical context. I started noticing people in my meetings. So it became people like Charlton Heston. So these are older stars. He played Moses.
Wow.
And then later I was introduced to Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau, the famous Vidal Sassoon became a real friend of mine. Then later I met Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson, Berry Gordy, who founded Motown. And these people were this guy's so young, this Tim Storey guy, but he's bright, he's funny, and he's a good listener.
Right.
So I remember that a lot of the big, big stars used to say, you want to know why we like you around? I go ahead and tell me. You're a good listener, you really listen. And so I think that a lot of people that are 27, 28, 29 were not paying attention to every word, but I was. So I was just drinking it in. And so I started to dialogue with these people and truly give them life advice, even though I was young and they were older.
Right.
And then I started helping a lot of their kids, their grandkids, and then it just took off. Yeah.
I mean, so you've been actually going from that to having conversations with Oprah in her backyard about life. And, that's some people, that's truly the highest form of your craft that you can get, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because it's interesting that Oprah's name is the most well-known name on the earth.
Why is that?
Why
do you think she became who she...
I think that Oprah represents something that we all long for. And that is living the best version of the life that we've been given. I think that everybody knows that their standards should be higher.
Right.
And Oprah's story of coming from challenge and going through a lot of painful experiences, even as a teenager, but constantly deciding to rise above. And then she became an example, but also a spokesperson that you can continue to rise above. and live a life that's abundant and does not have to be measured.
Right.
She's like a no limit person. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like unstoppable. Someone that has that force within them so strong that you just cannot be stopped because it's just so alive inside you, right? That gift, that calling.
Yes. But something I think that you'll appreciate is that there's a scripture in the Bible that says, do you see a person skilled at their work? They will serve in the presence of kings. They will not be obscure. But I see this in the same thing with you. When I saw you speak in Marbella, Spain, you were so prepared with your slide presentation, all your visuals were so prepared. And then after when you did a Q&A, and there were some people that didn't really understand the space, they did not understand Web3, they did not understand some of the things you were talking about, you were so prepared with the proper answers. So in my opinion, that's one reason that people get escalated is that they become skilled at what they do.
Interesting. You're prepared for those situations.
100%. So
you welcome those questions.
So this is what happened with an Oprah Winfrey. She became skilled at her work and then served amongst the elite.
Right.
You become skilled at your work and you're serving amongst the elite. So I think for anybody that's watching right now, you got to work your spot. And then life will put the spotlight on your spot.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. I love that because I just keep going back to what you were saying about you don't envision. I mean, okay, there's one thing that's, you manifest things. And I've heard you talk about manifesting, but it's not enough to manifest. You've got to reap the benefits of that harvest later, right? You've got to actually do the work after you manifest. But another thing is like planning where you're going to be. That just doesn't happen that way, does it?
Right.
You can have a vision of more or less where you want to go with what you're doing, but actually seeing yourself what's your legacy going to be or where do I want to be? It's just a discovery process.
Yeah, I love that. So we can break it down by, let's look for just a couple minutes at Walt Disney. So Walt Disney is walking in an amusement park with his friend, just one friend. And he says to the guy, I'm going to build my own someday, but mine's going to be different, better, and more magical. So this is kind of cool. He goes into somebody else's amusement park and gets an idea. So it starts with an idea. Right. Says, hey, I'm going to build my own, but mine's going to be different, better, more magical. 20 years later, in 1955, Disneyland opens, and it's different, better, more magical than any amusement park in the world. So it starts with this idea that he gets sparked by, and then he starts to do what? Crawl, stand, walk, run, soar.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And it's funny that you brought that up because I talk about Disney sometimes in my presentations as, I believe Disney was born off the back of the Great Depression.
Yes.
And it's interesting that like this smiling, whistling mouse at that time was just what America needed to rise from the ashes, to come up. Technology is meant to bring joy to people, and that technology should be accessible. And so that's what my world is, and we'll segue there later. But just that thought of, these things that are built out of troubled times that bring joy to people, they really actually do propel society into the next iteration.
No, I love what you're saying. So as you know, success is finding the need and filling it. So when I came up with this comeback concept, turning your setbacks to comebacks, obviously the word comeback has been in the American dictionary and other dictionaries of other languages for many, many years. But I breathed life into this idea of the comeback by adding some little sequence to it, where I said, don't sit in your setback. Don't settle in your setback. Don't cement yourself in your setback. And then I'd say, while you're feeling the sting of your setback, life is trying to prepare your comeback.
Wow.
So I breathe life into a word. And who doesn't need a comeback? So at 20, I became known as this comeback coach, but I didn't know that it would be to the world. I just got done speaking at an event with 18,000 people in a whole other country. I've been to 78 countries of the world doing this. So I never envisioned all that. I just knew somebody needed a comeback.
I love that. It's like you're just taking your craft and bringing it to where people need to hear it, your message.
Yes.
And that can lead you to, endless, limitless places. I mean, we can't even envision sometimes where we may be. But as long as we're focused on the moment and what we need to do right now,
Yeah.
and that we're aligned with our goals and our, vision for where we want to head toward, we will do great things. And that greatness can be in everybody, right? Even if they feel like
No doubt about it. And in fact, the current thing that somebody might be feeling right now, like that they think is just a pain point or a pain experience, may be the very thing that's going to propel them. So not only is pain power, pain can propel you. So my pain has propelled me. So I think about like this area, probably for 10 years straight, I was down the street with Kanye West while he was working on album after album after album. This whole area of Hollywood and go down a couple other streets, all these studios, I've been with every famous rapper in the world that has recorded around here. And people always say, like, how do you get to know all these people, or why do they call for you? I think I understand pain. I understand challenges. I understand setbacks. And I realize, though, that you don't have to stay in that place, but you can turn your setback into a great comeback.
No, I love that. And, this whole like decade, 2020 has been a major setback for so many people, but there've been so many silver linings. And actually the birth of all of, the world that I'm so involved with and, working on it came out of that. It came out of people needing to connect online. And,
Yes.
and that's kind of what segued into this whole movement of the metaverse, of things happening more, virtually, so that we can connect no matter where we are in the world. And we will get there. But I want to talk about this setback, because we've all had setbacks, and sometimes you don't even need a painful story, right? Sometimes it's just you feel maybe a void in your life, or that you're not fulfilling what you truly should be, or you just feel empty, or you can't really find your path. So, I think it's interesting. I'd like to hear, what were some of the setbacks for you along your journey that you were able to overcome through this mindset?
I think the setbacks for me starting off was the fact that my family was dysfunctional. Like you would,
many.
Yeah, you would meet other families and they seemed like they were more like the Brady Bunch or the Partridge Family, but mine was not so much. So that was like a challenge in my mind. Then other things would happen in our family that were challenging. But, what has to happen is that to turn a setback into a comeback, you have to, number one, become awake. So you become awake. So you now see clearly that something is wrong. But secondly, you have to take inventory. So I took inventory and I thought, this is not how I want to live. So thirdly, you have to find the right partners. But I see this in the same thing with what you're doing in the metaverse, is that you are waking us up to what is possible. We can take inventory of what we have and what we don't have, and then we have to partner with the right person. So if you don't partner with the right person or people, you cannot get to the right place. Oh, yeah. So I know about setback to come back. I know about miracle mentality, but I don't know what you do. So that's why I'm partnering with you, and I ask you questions about money, finances, crypto, because that's what you need to do. You need to become awake, take inventory, then partner with the right people.
Right, and vice versa. I mean, I remember when we first spoke, when I was starting this journey of, my world tour and speaking on this topic, you told me this is amazing, but you better be prepared because resistance will come.
Yes.
And I didn't get it at that time. I thought, what does he mean? There can't be resistance. I mean, everything's going great and I feel great and this is what I want to do. And, lo and behold, I discovered what that resistance meant.
Yes.
And that's what I mean by, overcoming adversity or struggles or challenges. Firstly, women haven't always had the forefront or the spotlight in this world, in the tech world. They haven't always fulfilled these positions that they are now. Things are changing and they're shifting.
Yes.
But there's a lot of adversity.
But that's exactly what I saw at that time, is that I felt that you are a pioneer, that you're a trailblazer. So when one is a pioneer and a trailblazer, they're going to face headwinds that other people don't face, okay?
Which you know from firsthand.
I know firsthand. Even coming into this city, we never talked about a life coach. I mean, that was not a popular thing. It was like, I had heard of this guy, Tony Robbins, at the time. That was back in the 80s, and he was doing these infomercials, but you didn't never heard of a a life coach. So when Tim Storey came into Beverly Hills, it's like, what? You have a life coach? So that's like a headwind because we're pioneers and trailblazers.
Yeah.
But, one is that you were speaking about Web3 and currencies that a lot of people didn't know about. So that was new and foreign to people. Like, is this really going to happen?
Right.
And then as a woman, but then also as a beautiful woman, it's easy for someone to say, you should be more next to a man, that's what you do. You just stay silent, be next to a man.
Right.
Why are you the lead? What made you the expert?
Yeah.
But what I love about you and this part of the athlete in you, you just dig deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I don't think you even defend yourself. You just dug deeper and became more of a master at what you do. And then we had to pay attention to you.
Well, coming from the master himself at articulation and speaking and stuff, that really means a lot.
But I mean it, you're a master. I was telling your husband that even one of my friends who's kind of a critical thinker who runs a very massive company worth about $400 million,
Wow.
he was giving you a compliment at dinner about 2 weeks ago because I brought you up. He goes, yeah, I've been poking around and looking at her. And she really knows what she's talking about.
Wow, that's
a big compliment from that guy.
Seriously. I mean, thank you so much for that. And I just, I think what we want to do is make a difference with the gift that we've been given and this kind of thing that we have inside, this light inside that we want to share with the world.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we should, ridicule people or tell them that they shouldn't ask questions or even doubt what I'm saying. I welcome that because I know this is a new technology. I know this is hard to grasp for a lot of people, and I just want to do the best that we possibly can to kind of like light the way in a meaningful way, because there are a lot of opportunists in every area
Yes.
of life, and I want to show them the power of the magical part of this.
Yes.
Right? So
And I think that you know this illustration about how they find out about counterfeit bills is they make people just fill the real ones, okay? And that the longer you're out there is that we're finding out more and more how real you are because you're standing the test of time and the test of the market and everything that's going on.
yeah.
But what I like about what you're doing is this lady, Carol Dweck, who teaches at Stanford University. She wrote a book on the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset.
Mm.
The fixed mindset would be somebody in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s saying, no, I'm just into the dollar. That's how I've always been. It was hard enough to even think of a debit card. This crypto or other things that are coming in my mind, I'm just going to stay fixed.
Right.
That's not going to work.
Yeah.
Actually, what's going to take place is not only will you be left behind, you're going to be run over.
Wow. You said it absolutely perfectly. I would say you get left behind, but the run over part, I mean, the technology is going there. This is the future, whether you like it or not. So you may as well embrace it now and try to learn all that you can.
Can I give you an example?
Yes.
So just getting off an overseas flight last week, everything is shifted. So it's not like people are just waiting for you with kindness to say, okay, foreign passports over here, U.S. passports over here.
Oh my gosh,
it's
I
like
can relate so
everyone's
much.
just flying through, right? And then everything now is like digital. Everything's not just a person there. So you have to put your passport in, you have to push certain things. And I noticed that a lot of people that are older were standing around, just looking around. But also there were some other younger people around doing the same thing because they're not informed.
Right.
Okay. So I've been going through so many airports, I now have it down to a science that I was just like, boom, 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 holla. And then, back in the USA.
Oh my gosh.
So again, what you're doing is essential. So in my opinion, it's not even like, oh, I think I'll take Megan's class. No, it's essential learning. I need to know or I would get run over.
I mean, that's truly incredible. You have this way of just kind of packaging everything up that makes it so easy to understand. And thank you so much for saying this. It really means a lot. And I guess we both have very essential crafts because, in order to kind of like take these things on, you need to have the right mindset.
Yes.
And for that, you need to have wonderful people in your life, mentors like you at the top who know their craft, who can guide you through difficult times, who can guide you through transitions. Actually, one of the topics that I did discuss yesterday with Cordell, Snoop Dogg's son, is when he was on one path in life, his dad was his coach. He was set to be a football star, go to the NFL, right? And multi-million-dollar contracts and everything set. And he decided, this is not my calling. This is not what I'm meant to do. And he was afraid to tell his dad, Snoop, who was so into this, and he made that transition. And that's kind of like, those difficult choices you have to make in life to follow what you believe is your right path. And you are just such an amazing person to talk to get in line with that vision and what you feel inside.
But that's a really good story you just brought up, because being from LA, Snoop's son, we saw him since he was little, and there was the expectation that he was going to play at the NFL.
Right.
So you're so correct that there's times that you have your own aha moment, as Oprah would say, and your own revelation, and you say, you know what? That is my father's dream, but that is not really my dream.
Yeah.
And you gotta dial into your dream. Again, if I could take it back to you, that's what you have done. Because I think that you could have lived your comfy life in the way you're living it, but you got out into this war. This is a war that we're in.
It's a war. That's so true.
It is a war. It is
like
a war.
The great reset. It's the changing of ways. It's the old ways are dying now, and it's a whole new world whole new precipice of life that we're entering here. And so,
yeah, but it's an interesting thing about life is that I often say that life will take shaky people and call them to do sturdy projects. And what I mean by that is I started off shaky, a kid from the inner city. But as I grew, I became more and more fit and sturdy to do what I do.
Right.
And to go from this city, Hollywood, Beverly Hills, but all the way to Washington, D.C. to work with the biggest politicians that we have, to presidents of our country and all these other countries that I go to, who would have ever really thought that? Yeah.
Right. And yet your energy, you're just so humble. You're just willing to listen to everybody. And part of that, the way that you are, is the whole ethos of Web3, because we're all kind of on an equal playing field together now going into this, because it's the people's movement, right? Like we have to coordinate with each other to make this work, because it's happening from the inside out, not the outside in.
Yes.
So the suits now are not the ones controlling everything. We're working together and we're all just 1 degree away. And I just love how you can just sit down with anybody and they can feel so comfortable with you. And not everybody can say that, right? And one of the things that I wanted to ask you about mindset and, struggling with adversity and ups and downs like we do in these markets and lots of emotional roller coasters. One thing that I feel inside, and I think that you can tell me if I'm right, but, one of the things in the mindset that you must have is that kind of like unshakable, sometimes when I feel like people are going against me or have the resistance from certain areas, I just feel like I will do whatever it takes. I don't care. Like I'm going to keep going. This light that says, no, I can't. If somebody says no here, I'll go there and I'll open another door. And that will to like keep going.
Yes.
Right?
And the way that comes to a person is that word that we talked about earlier. It's revelation. So when one gets a revelation of something, revelation leads to conviction. And then watch what I do with this. Revelation, conviction leads to action. So when I talk to you, I see that you have a revelation about what you're doing. It has led to conviction. When someone has a conviction, they know that they know that they know. They don't just know. They know that they know that they know. Let's take Michael Jordan. He's like, put 2 defenders on me, I'm still going by you.
Oh, I love it.
Put 3 defenders, either I'm going to come back and do a fadeaway or I'm going by you. Because he knew that he knew that he knew. So when I talk to you about this whole thing that you're doing, you know that you know that you know. So I got to give one quick example. I'm about to speak at this conference and the organizer comes to the back to talk to me and he goes, hey, Tim, are you feeling okay? I go, yeah, I feel great. He goes, you're going on, like I said, in 4 minutes. I go, yeah, I feel great. He goes, I saw you at this one conference and you were like really on fire and really almost blew up the stage. It was amazing. He goes, is that going to happen? I go, yeah, I'll be all right. Because I am so laid back.
You are.
That behind the stage, most big speakers are pacing, almost pounding their chest. I'm playing with my friends' kids, toying around with people, small talking, and then they go, okay, mic him up. And I'm just still smiling. But when my feet hit the stage, revelation,
it's like
conviction, action.
You go into the
It's
state.
over with. I'm in a zone.
And I've seen it. I've witnessed this, and it's something that blew my mind about you is you just go on a stage and you command the presence no matter where you are in a world. People just stop. They just stop, and that's when you know you're in the presence of somebody who is truly, shining in their light.
Somebody has a revelation of something, a true revelation that can lead to true conviction, that leads to true action. And this is what you're doing, is you're taking these action steps now, and you're moving with purpose and intent. What you and your husband are doing is not by accident. So if I see you guys, you're at a conference in Dubai, or if I see you're in a conference in Canada or New York, this is not by accident. This is you guys just really cooperating with what life has called you guys to do.
Interesting. Yeah, just kind of seizing the opportunity and rolling with the flow of whatever that may be along this journey of discovery.
Yeah, so what are you doing? You're educating us and you are empowering us. So unless I am educated on what is new. I remember being in school and they're teaching algebra. And then the teacher, Mr. Crow, who is a cool guy, goes, and now I will introduce you geometry. I'm like, what? I said to my neighbor, Kathy, I go, what? She goes, yeah, that's what comes next. I'm like, how come? Because that's how it works. There's algebra, then geometry. Yeah.
And now as we segue over to, the digital world that we've been discussing briefly and touching upon, you mentioned airports, and I love that because I'm also in airports a lot of my life. And one of the great things about technology is that you can touch people around the world no matter what's going on. I know you have something kind of show in the airport now,
I have a show in
right?
airports. Yeah, so there's a company called Reach TV, like REACH. And the owners reached out to me during the pandemic when we were all locked down. And they said, can you do these inspirational videos in these airports? So they're in over 90 airports around the world.
Wow.
So what's an amazing thing is like people that we know every single day take photos on their phone and send them to me like, what the heck? So some of the screens are gigantic. Some of them are in the restaurant. Some of them are by gate A17. But 90 airports around the world. So I went from the 7-minute show, and now I have my own talk show. I'm the first talk show in the history to be in airports.
That's incredible. I mean, that's ingenious too, because when you're in an airport, you're stressed, you're tired, you might be feeling down, everything is chaotic, and you bring, and I'm quoting you from one of your shows that you did, the magic in that chaos. Maybe that moment that somebody needs to see as they're transitioning to wherever they're going, to just sit down, take a minute, take it all in, and think about being.
Yeah, I was telling your husband that we've grown like a real 250,000 on our Instagram alone.
That's incredible.
In just a small amount of time from just the airport people watching me and getting caught up with our message.
Right. And what you do ties so much into this new iteration of the web, this new third layer of the web, Web3, in providing and giving value to people. Because as we segue into this, Web3, basically Web 2 is the free transfer of information, right? We all had access to this information, but that information got kind of colluded to the top and only kind of reserved for the people at the top, making decisions for the few.
Yes.
So now we have a chance to get it right after the past 30 years, not only in profit distribution, so wealth distribution, but also in the free transfer of value. For the first time ever, you and I can transact value on the internet without the use of a middleman. And we don't have those gatekeepers, so to speak, anymore. We're free. Creators are free. They can make music and sell directly to their fans and make a living for the first time ever. So this really plays into a lot of what you do in empowering people to live these lives and to go with their craft and in their journey to success, I mean, it's much easier now for people to interact in this iteration of the web. And it's just a layer. It's not a new world. It's a new layer. It's a new way of transacting.
Yes. And it liberates people like myself that come from poverty to see that even in the mindset where someone thinks, I've always been like known as lower income. And in Web3, no. You just said we're equal. It's a community.
Yeah.
That's a mind shift that can really change somebody's life.
Yeah, it's like the community is building now. The community has a say. They have a voice. Minorities have a chance to step up and take the spotlight. I always talk about in my shows about checking the boxes.
Yeah.
A lot of minorities or women won't stand up and apply for positions even because they feel they don't check all the boxes, right? That diploma or this or having had 10 years experience, but there's so much value to give. Mm-hmm. And in this iteration of the web, if you can provide value, you're welcome here. Any way that you can find to harvest your skills in this web.
I think that one reason there's such resistance to Web3 and what's inevitably going to happen is because it's going to bring such great change that a lot of times there's a lot of resistance before great change, right? And how strange is it to see and now to know in your life that life is using you as one of the pioneers. Like, really think about this. I get approached all the time from people that are saying, I was in a meeting with Netflix or so-and-so, and they're talking about doing this Tim Storey documentary. I'm like, not yet. I'm not that old yet. Let me get older or die.
Hey, we can do 2 iterations, man. I'm up for that. I would love to see that.
But my point is, people see me as like a trailblazer in this field that I'm in, but you're a trailblazer in your field, but you're gonna feel this resistance that we keep talking about. But the reason to get on the other side is the change that it's gonna bring.
It's so much greater than, anything we can imagine. And that's enough reason to get to that other side of things, right? And to go through this resistance. And eventually, we're seeing it with all the big conglomerates and corporations. And now once we get some sort of regulation, instead of being the Wild West and the crypto cowboys that we are, which I love, but, like some kind of structure that makes people feel safe and comfortable. This is it. This is the kind of like the brain drain. All the internet's most brilliant minds are leaving their Web 2 jobs, transitioning to Web 3, starting with Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, right? Who's now working for Block. And we're all headed that way. And we can see the signs, and the banks are having trouble now.
But I love the word you just used because I'm a wordsmith. The word structure. This is what I'm looking for from Web 3. I need structure. Because if I just have a young guy come up to me and say, you need to listen to this guy. Then I listen to this guy and he's just rattling on about what you should do. I'm like, well, who is he? Well, no one really knows. He never shows his face.
Oh, yeah. That's a big thing in Web3, the anonymity, the being anonymous. And I think that's great that this movement allows you to be anonymous and just... For example, I just saw something yesterday that said, okay, I want to apply to rent a house. My income is minimum of $100,000, always in my account that you can see here on the blockchain. I have no criminal record, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Let me rent this house from you without having to give those details if you want to remain private. But I do think it is important as thought leaders to come out and, as part of paving this way for people who are scared. It's so normal to be scared. We need to, in my opinion, I want to be out there so people know who I am. I want to be transparent. So, I'm not going to disappear.
Okay, can I tell you something that fits perfectly with this about structure and rules? So I was watching Australian rules football recently, okay? Just like last week. There's 80,000 people in this arena, okay? So you know this. American football, we have 11 players on each side.
Right.
They have 18.
Oh, my God.
Megan, it looks like too many people out there. So
that's a great analogy.
With the 2 guys I'm with, I'm like, okay, so can they hit him in the back? Because there's certain rules in football on how you can tackle him and how you can come. Yeah, you could hit him from any side.
That feels like crypto sometimes.
And then why does he run and then he kicks the ball for no reason? He goes, that's because. And then there's not one goal post. There's 3. There's one in the middle, then another. So the more I stayed with these guys and asked the questions, then they told me the rules. and the structure. And so now I'm excited to go back again.
Right.
This is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Teach us the rules.
Teach us the rules. Yeah. Show us the way. I mean, we're all figuring this out as we go, but there's, I believe we must make this simple. I just hosted a fashion show in the metaverse for Vivian Tam. She's a high-end designer in New York. And so I was hosting the red carpet. So people from all over the world, Hong Kong, LA, it was in New York. It was a mirror image of what was happening in New York. So we were watching the fashion show and actually interacting with people through portals in the physical place. And we felt like we were there. And one of my stress tests or my things that said, wow, okay, this is how we need to do it. My dad showed up. So it was easy enough for him to click a button, show up. There were no goggles. There was nothing like that. And my vision for the metaverse is kind of just a seamless bridge between the physical and digital.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
So, and I like what you're saying because your dad is your father. So he's the generation before you.
Yeah.
He showed up and was able to figure it out.
Right. And so how do you envision, the metaverse as this kind of digital space where we can all get together, possibly elevating your career?
I see the metaverse giving me new lanes that you never had before through the power of the spoken word. Mm-hmm. That if somebody's in a tough position, that Tim Storey's voice is heard in the metaverse in a way that they did not hear it on radio, they didn't hear it on a podcast or on a TV show, but they're hearing it in a place that they did not expect it.
Right. So and they can actually show up and be with you and feel like they're there with you.
100%.
Anywhere in the world. Right?
You're exactly right. Like I could be teaching in Hong Kong, but we could be doing a Web3 seminar, and it's all over the world in a way where there's real transaction.
Yeah, and people are really doing, like Snoop Dogg, he was one of the first to come out and say, hey, I got my plot here in the metaverse, come over, come hang out. They're doing concerts there. I'm going to go back to that thought of bringing joy to people. Mm-hmm. That's what this movement is about. The technology is about, is to bring that joy. And so you bring joy to so many people around the world, and I see this as a powerful tool for you in your career to be able to speak to the masses without having to actually be there, for people who can't travel.
Yes, and I'm excited, and I like to be one of the first. So that's one reason that when I was talking to you and your husband in Marbella, I was like so intrigued by what you were doing, because I'm like, she is not normal, this lady.
I guess you could say that. Yeah, it's not a normal thing.
She is really like caught on to this, but I can tell when somebody really has it. There's a funny story that Jamie Foxx talks about, that he saw Ed Sheeran at this little concert before Ed Sheeran became big, but he knew that he was going to be big. He just knew it. And he let him live on his couch for a while. And now Ed Sheeran tells the same story.
That's incredible.
And, anybody that's a real seer, you can tell when somebody's next. So I knew that you were next. I knew you were going to do big things. And so I think that through our relationship, you're going to help give me ideas of where I could use my voice.
Oh, absolutely. And vice versa.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, there's so much synergy here, because this is actually about lifting people up, bringing them, giving them opportunities, facilitating those opportunities. And we're able to do that now. In fact, I see something cool for you, like having your fans or people who want to access your program through an NFT. And then you can actually see who's your like super followers, or who really actually engages with you most. And then maybe do a meet and greet. There's so many possibilities through NFTs that there weren't in other iterations of the web.
Yeah, it's a whole new world. And for me, because I do not have a fixed mindset, I have a growth mindset. I'm so wide open and have my funnel open to all these possibilities.
Which is explaining why you've been able to be so successful, because I believe that people in the world who have that kind of like set mentality, it's hard for them to evolve with the times and to keep up and not be run over, like you say.
Yes.
It's important to have that open mentality. And part of that comes from getting educated, because people are afraid of what they don't know. Mm-hmm. And new technology has traditionally always been demonized, including AI. People fear what they don't know, when really it's meant to be there to elevate the life that we're living now and to enhance it, not to replace, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let me ask you one question, being that I interview people. What is the thing that excites you about this project that you're on, that you're willing to go through the obstacles and fight the good fight, what excites you? What's on the other side of the challenge?
On the other side of the challenge to me is freedom. It's freedom. It's also financial freedom. You have sovereignty over your money. It's freedom to express, to create. That would be the one word. Freedom and ownership are the two things that we really couldn't truly have in Web 2, right? And in the second layer of the internet. And so those thoughts propel me forward, and I want that for everybody.
So that's so powerful because I know you guys, you and your husband, it's not just on the financial side, which I think that's what really messed it up for some people in some phases of what's taking place in Web3 is what is the motive? And your motive is freedom, right? To see people grow, to see people prosper. Yeah. And that's why you're going to continue to win.
Yeah, which is also what your alignment goes with, to see people thrive.
100%.
Right?
So I really can't lose in this case. Yeah, like in my life, people try to give me things all the time. People have tried to give me boats, cars. They give me a lot of watches. Somebody recently tried to give me a horse. And I was teasing with one of my friends. I said, why do they try to give me things all the time? They said, you reap what you sow. And it's the truth. You sow good things into people, whether you want to call it God or the universe, it's going to come back to you.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And as we wrap this up, for people who are watching who may be struggling to find their path in life or feel like they're currently in a setback with, the COVID whole pandemic that we had, locked in the house, and now coming into recession.
Yeah.
What would be your advice to those people?
So my advice would be something you're going to like. Sometimes you have to go left before you go right. And to be left is to be rejected, forsaken. It just did not work. Right. And you find yourself left. So what do I do on my left, Tim Storey? You don't just settle, but you get seasoned.
Wow.
Some people just settle on the left and they go like, okay, now I'm left and I guess that's my life. No, you get seasoned on the left and get ready for your right. And the seasoning is the preparation and knowing that someday the doors will open and you go from left to right. Bam.
Wow. That was powerful. I mean, all those listening, you heard it here. This is how you get unstuck, right?
Yes.
This is how you continue forward and get through those tough times.
Yes.
So Tim, as we wrap this up, what are you working on now? What can people get involved? How can they get coached by you?
So number one, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of everything you're doing. And I have a new program called Magical Living. So everything that I am about. And I'm doing this with Mind Valley. So mindvalley.com. And it's a new course called Magical Living, where it's like 20 different lessons on how to have magical living in your marriage, in your relationships, if you're single, with your kids and your finances, all on magical living.
No, there couldn't be a better time to kind of get into that and have access to that than now, right? When people need to feel good and be uplifted and get that boost.
And life can still be magical, no matter what anybody's gone through. Magical is extraordinary, uncommon, not normal.
I love it. And Jeff Bezos from Amazon has this thing that he says, you can have a job, you can have a career, or you can have a calling. And if you find your calling, you've hit the jackpot. And you have certainly found your calling. And I feel so lucky to have you here today and for you to share your gift with the world. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.